And welcome back to the Correspondents on Voice of America. I'm Arcega in Washington. At a hearing this week on Capitol Hill, America's top intelligence chief said he is more convinced than ever that Russia used cyber attacks to meddle in last year's presidential election. And he warned President-elect Donald Trump against disparaging the intelligence community. VOA's Michael Bowman has more.
I think the public should know as much about this as possible.
Intelligence Director James Clapper told senators the Obama administration's report on Russian cyber snooping will be issued next week and will leave no doubt about Moscow's intent to impact the November election.
This was a multifaceted campaign, so the hacking was only one part of it, and it also entailed classical propaganda, disinformation, fake news.
The chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, John McCain, has labeled Russia's cyber attacks an act of war, but one the United States invited by letting its guard down.
Right now, there is no policy, therefore there is no strategy, therefore there's no response to the attacks.
Donald Trump tweeted Thursday he is a big fan of U.S. intelligence, but the president-elect has questioned the need to receive classified briefings, highlighted past CIA missteps, and repeatedly dismissed the intelligence community's conclusions on Russian hacking.
And to help us sort fact from politics, I'm joined here in Washington by VOA political correspondent Katherine Gibson, along with VOA White House correspondent Cindy Saine. I thank you both for joining us today. Katherine, so who to believe, our intelligence professionals or our professional politicians?
Well, the word coming out of that hearing was absolutely we should be believing our intelligence professionals on this judgment about Russia's hacking. That, as you know, in intelligence, you can never get anything 100% certain, but we are as close to 100% certain on this as we absolutely can be. That was the word from Democrat and Republican senators.
So, Cindy, I mean, how counterproductive is it going to be for President Donald Trump to sort of dismiss some of these intelligence reports? I mean, he's going to need these people, isn't he? I mean, to give them correct information.
That's right. I feel like we keep using the word unprecedented, but it truly is unprecedented. And at the White House, the press secretary keeps on highlighting that President Obama relies very heavily on unvarnished briefings from his intel experts, and that they shouldn't fear that they have to present things in a certain light or that they have to avoid what might be perceived as bad news, that this could lead to a very dangerous sort of dynamic.
Yeah.
And also we saw that Clapper was saying there is a distinction between skepticism, which can be healthy, and making disparaging remarks. And others at that hearing said that they were afraid that it could impact morale negatively in the intelligence community, and that if the workforce, valued members of the workforce who put their lives on the line,
right,
feel that their service is not valued, that they may walk, they may go elsewhere, go to the private industry.
Sure, but Katherine, based on the intelligence that we've already received, and I understand Donald Trump is expected to receive more information on Friday.
That's right.
Do we have any baseline facts? What do we really know for sure the facts are in terms of Russia's involvement in influencing or interfering with the 2016 election?
Well, we're expected to get a full unclassified briefing early next week, and then we'll have a lot more details. But coming out of the hearings this week, we know that this was a multifaceted effort on the part of Russia, that there were multiple ways that they were looking to undermine American democracy. And the interesting thing is that there's speculation that they actually didn't specifically want Donald Trump to win. It was more in terms of going against Hillary Clinton, who had criticized Russia's democracy in the past. So this was kind of an added benefit in terms of Russia's perspective that they then had Donald Trump elected in the American election.
And Donald Trump, I think, has had to sort of scale back on some comments he's made about Julian Assange. Initially, he was praising his role in exposing information about the DNC. He's had to pull back a little bit on that. How damaging is that? Because I guess the question to you is Julian Assange an enemy of the state or is he a friend?
Well, it's interesting because he has been viewed as an enemy of the state, particularly by many Republicans.
Sure.
So I think that Trump did get some backlash over that and tweeted that, that wasn't his opinion. He was just retweeting what Assange had said. But Senator John McCain, who's coming to be quite a force, possibly in a showdown with President-elect Trump, said, gave James Clapper the opportunity to say, do you think he's a very credible person? And of course, as he's holed up in the embassy, facing some sort of child abuse charges, I mean, he's not the most credible person.
And when Mike Pence was up on Capitol Hill this week, he was asked about those tweets from President-elect Donald Trump, and the way he walked back those comments was to say that we've had intelligence failures in the past. Of course, going back to the famous example of Iraq back in 2003. But you have to understand that each intelligence judgment is very different and is its own situation. There's not really a way to compare one to the other.
Right, and I want to get back to that Senate hearing because, as you know, Trump has already made some disparaging comments about the veracity of some of these reports, given their mistakes in Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction. So at the Senate hearing this week, National Intelligence Director James Clapper was asked by Senator John McCain whether or not he still believed that Moscow was behind the hacking of the DNC. Let's have a listen to this clip, and then I'll ask you both for your comments on this. Do we have that?
Only Russia's senior-most officials could have authorized these activities. General Clapper, those are still operable and correct statements?
Yes, Chairman McCain, they are. As I indicated in my statement, we stand actually more resolutely on the strength of that statement that we made on the 7th of October.
So more resolutely on those comments he made. So not only did Clapper say Russians hacked an American political party, he said it was actually authorized at the highest levels of the Kremlin. How do we know this?
I have spoken to counterterrorism officials who say that there's such a thing as cyber fingerprints, and that the Russians who did this hack on the Democratic National Committee had also attacked the German parliament, the Bundestag, last year, and had attacked Ukrainian power grid, and that these very same cyber fingerprints were found, and that it was first actually private industry that knew that it was the Russians, and then that the U.S. intelligence agencies unanimously agreed. So I think there's on very strong footing, and now parts of this report are starting to be leaked that U.S. Intelligence officials actually heard Russians celebrating Donald Trump's victory, and in a congratulatory way, such as, oh, we did it, we won.
So last question, why is Donald Trump so adamant that the Russians were not involved? Does he fear that perhaps it delegitimizes his election? Oh,
well, certainly. It's not a good sign for him moving in as he becomes the president of the United States to have all of this doubt and uncertainty. And, he's new to the intelligence briefings as well. Was speculation among Republican senators in the Hill this week that as he gets more used to intelligence briefings and hearings, that he'll start to move into a more comfortable position with the intelligence community.
Probably a big challenge for him is how to mend those fences. I'm out of time for this segment, but stick around. Thank you, Cindy and Katherine. We're going to take another break right now, but Cindy and Katherine are going to be back with us to talk about the new Republican majority in Congress that arrived in Washington this week and what their plans might be in 2017. And just a reminder, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, questions, and comments on our Facebook page. The address is VOA The Correspondents. We'll be right back.